on this computer. We have Rick Garish and Cam Stanley are both down and out in Portland. So Ashley is womaning the office and handling all the finals there. So I promised her we'd record this for her and shoot it over to her. So what we're going to cover today, guys, I sent it over to you. We're going to do laws 16 and 17, which is going to be the law of the Big Mo and the law of priorities, which will set us up for a really cool finish next week for our sixth and final part of the series. But let me go over here. Let me share the screen here. Okay. And let's get John up. And everybody see John? Awesome. Let me turn the volume up and let's get tuned in for I know I've said this a handful of times, like, oh, this is one of my favorite. This is absolutely by far, along with the law of victory last week, because that might be my favorite law. This one right here, the law of the Big Mo, it ties really well into law number 2, the law of process. Part of the process that's so crucial. And, for you guys who are currently in management, I really encourage you to embrace this law, really tune into it. And this is such an important conversation to have with your new agents. One of the biggest things that new agents struggle with when they come in here is there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to juggle to do well and to earn your paychecks week to week when you first start. And the biggest deficiency you have is just you're inexperienced, and so the biggest thing we're doing is trying to get experience. And while we're trying to become experienced, we're operating with a lot of inefficiencies. So we're taking longer at everything. It takes us more phone calls to book an appointment. It takes us more prezos to close the deal. It takes us X amount of weeks to start to get good. Everything's a process. And that whole process should be built towards gaining momentum. So I want you to really tune in and make sure you can make some really good notes, because this is definitely a law that each of you who are currently a leader, each of you should be setting up individual meetings with your people. And I would go over the law of the Big Mo with your people. So let's tune in here.
Law number 16 is the law of the Big Mo, which says momentum is a leader's best friend. I've taught leadership for many years, and I have discovered that it is true. Momentum is a leader's best friend. Now, I guess the question that we ask, and it's kind of like a chicken and the egg question, is which comes first, momentum or growth? Because they are connected, no question about it. I mean, is it that we as leaders build momentum, and that allows us to get the attitude and the esprit de corps so high that now people are playing above their heads and they work hard, and so therefore they begin to grow the organization, they begin to grow the department? Or is it the fact that they're just kind of committed to growth, and so they start growing the department, and as they begin to see results and things are happening in a positive way, then momentum kind of comes alongside of it, and together they kind of build each other. Which comes first? Now, it's a trick question, and I'm having fun with you for a moment. To be honest with you, there's really no answer to that. I have come to the conclusion that if you have momentum but you don't have growth, very quickly momentum dies. In other words, you can only fan the flame without results so long until the flame goes out. But I also know that if you really are disciplined and you are a just do it Nike kind of person, and we're going to make this happen, and you begin to develop growth in your organization, then here's what I know. Momentum will come alongside of it, and as long as you're growing, momentum will be a constant companion. But they go together. Winning and momentum go together, just like losing and loss of momentum go together. When you're winning, everything's good and nothing hurts. And when you're losing, everything's bad and everything hurts. Isn't that true? Now, here's the power of momentum. It allows you and me to work through problems and solve issues that could never be solved without momentum. A train, let me give you an example of this. A train going 55 miles an hour down a track, if you had a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall on that track, okay? You built this concrete wall there with steel being reinforced in it. That train going 55 miles an hour would hit that wall and just smash that wall and just continue going. Why? Because it has momentum. The momentum allowed it to literally smash the wall and keep going. Momentum, the power of it. That same train, if it has no momentum, stop dead on the tracks. You can take a 1-inch block, put it in front of the driving wheel of that train, and that train with a 1-inch block can't even get started. What happened? Same train. It's the same train that smashed through a 5-foot thick concrete steel reinforced wall. What happened? It was very simple. When the train hit the wall, it had momentum. When it had no momentum, 1-inch block would stop it. Or may I say this, a 1-inch problem. A 1-inch problem. Stop it. That's why momentum is so important to you as a leader. In fact, I've often said, isn't it amazing? If you have momentum, you can have a 5-foot thick steel reinforced concrete problem in your life. You smash it and you move on. And you say, boy, did we have a problem back there? Did we hit something? If you have no momentum, a 1-inch problem can keep your organization from moving forward. Amazing, isn't it? In fact, I tell people once in a while when I'm having fun with them in seminars that their problem is not their problem. The problem is they think the problem is the problem. So the problem that isn't the problem now has become a problem, not because it is a problem. It only has become a problem because they thought the problem was a problem. So the problem that wasn't a problem has now become a problem, not because it was a problem, but the problem was they didn't know the problem wasn't a problem. So the problem now has become a problem, even though it wasn't a problem, because the problem now has become a problem. I know what you're saying. John, I'm trying to take notes here. I'm trying to be a good coach. I'm trying to be a good speaker. Could you repeat that? I think I missed one of the problems. Oh, forget it. Listen, I'm just telling you your problem is not your problem. Your problem is you don't have momentum. When you have momentum, you can, quote, as the sports analogy is, you play over your head. You literally do better than what you really are. That's the power of momentum. Now, I just stop and kind of close this law out by saying to you that now we've been together for quite a few weeks. And I hope you're starting to feel momentum within yourself that, hey, I'm learning. And perhaps some of you are saying, boy, I'd like to have more momentum and I'd like to get moving a little bit quicker. Listen to me. Be patient. Let the big Mo slowly build within you. It's okay. You see, we're not trying to make something that fizzles next month. We're trying to build into your life a foundation that will last for years, that 20, 30 years from now, you'll look back and say, one of the greatest decisions I ever made was to become a part of the John Maxwell team and be a coach, be a speaker, learn how to communicate. One of the greatest decisions. And we're trying to build a foundation within you. We're trying to build the proper internal momentum and motivation within you that will continue to grow, continue to build, and continue to last. Because here's what I know about the law of the big Mo. Once you understand it, once you have it working within you, and once you have it working with your people, it will be, trust me on this, your best friend.
All right. So let me ask, do any of you, and you can, if you're on video, just raise your hand, and if you're on the phone, obviously, just chime in. Do any of you need me to put the worksheets on the screen? Or do you all have access to see it?
No, we have the worksheets.
Okay, cool. Because I'd like to, when I put the screen just to see you guys, you won't be able to see the worksheet, and I'd rather look at you guys and see who I can talk to and if not. So let's get into these worksheets. So, right, the big Mo, momentum is a leader's best friend. Some of you may have heard me or Laura, that train analogy. Put that one in your pocket, guys. I probably go over that analogy with somebody like at least once a month for the last 13 years. Again, when I'm working with new agents, or when I was an SA and GA and MGA especially, or field training, because I wanted to make sure that they got this in their head, that one, this is going to be a process. So we have to be committed to process over premium, right? Two, pairing last week's law, we have to be competing all the time, right? And seeking victory. So when you put the law of process and add on the law of victory, you will get to the law of what? Momentum. You know, understanding process, pursuing it with just an absolute, chase of victory. That's what's going to create this momentum. And as John said, when you're winning, nothing hurts. When you're losing, what? Everything hurts. Everything hurts. I know right now, again, as an example, I see his name's all over the place, and I see, and I know I reached out to you yesterday, and we don't ever want to give people a big head, and hopefully you stay, grounded, the law of solid ground, which you guys have, that I believe that was law number like 13 or 14. We didn't cover it, but you should have it. But Stephen Foeri, right now, you have a lot of momentum, man. Would you agree?
I would agree. Yes, Ryan.
Right. And do you physically feel much better with the momentum you have than you did, say, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, like 100%. Yes, Ryan.
Right. So when somebody, no shows you, or somebody, isn't kind to you on the phone, is your mentality right now different than it would have been maybe 6 weeks ago?
Absolutely. Go right to the next one.
Right. So again, you're a living example right now of the law of the big Mo. So when we jump to it, number one, momentum is, I'm going to give this to you guys because it's a difficult one. Momentum is the great exaggerator. Momentum is the great exaggerator. If you're not sure how to spell exaggerator, it's EXAGGERATOR. Okay. And so what John mentioned, it's kind of like in sports. Sometimes the team that really shouldn't win, sometimes the Jets beat the Patriots. Right? Not because the Jets are better than the Patriots, right? But because they happen to catch the momentum. And so that win is highly what? Exaggerated. Right? Number two,
Fantastic.
Who said fantastic? Walter?
Damn it.
Oh, man, Walter, you were building such capital in my book, and you just, just crashed a little bit, man. Oh, that's okay. I'm joking, mostly.
Actually, the worst part is actually a Giants fan, so I don't even know how you take that. So
I am a New York Giants fan, but the Jets. Oh, I don't know many people. Well, I guess Gary Vayner. Look, we'll talk about that personally when I come up to me. I don't want to get off topic. Number two, momentum makes the leader blank than they are. 2 words. Look better. There you go. Okay. Momentum makes the leader look better than they are. And guys, I really encourage you to remember that. Remember that when you are winning and when you start to get, victories under your belt because you've been committed to process and you start winning and you gain momentum, okay, you're going to look better than you actually are. And as that's happening, I want to encourage you to remain what? Humble. And understand that you have the law of the big Mo working for you. Okay? Understand that when you look in the spotlight, people aren't better than you, right? They just have more wins and momentum than you, right? And when people start to lose their humility in that process, that's when the other guy that's following the same process, gaining those same victories, and getting that momentum is going to come and eat you for dinner, okay? So young leaders often get less credit than, and by young, this is not chronological. Okay, this does not mean chronological as far as your age is concerned. This means as far as your tenure as an actual leader in a leadership position, right? So young leaders often get less credit than they deserve because they have little or no what?
Momentum.
Momentum, right? So we have little no momentum, so we're getting less credit, right? We're working our asses off. We're committed to the process, right? We're pushing for victories, but nobody's acknowledging us yet, right? So we're not getting as much credit as we maybe deserve because we don't have the exemplified momentum. Know that. Don't get upset at it. Don't start, throwing a pity party because nobody's giving you credit. Know that it's coming, right? Once a leader creates success and develops career momentum, then people give him or her what?
More credit.
More credit than what?
He deserves.
Than they deserve, right? And doesn't this kind of speak to society? Like when people are doing well, we're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when they're not doing well, we're like, fuck that guy. Right? And that's just the way people work, man, as human beings. If you study sociology, that is what it is. So we need to remember, law is solid ground. We need to remain solid inside and know what we're doing, what we're not doing, and either which way that we're pushing for that momentum. One word that can help you enjoy the fruit of your labor to build momentum without letting it destroy you. Any guesses on this one? It's not the word we've already used. It's not humble or humility. Begins with a G.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Who's that, Mr. Ward?
Yeah.
Good job, man.
Thanks.
Okay. Gratitude. Okay. One word that can help you enjoy the fruit of your labor to build momentum without letting it destroy you. Gratitude. And I know we talk about that a lot, every day. Make sure we're grounded, guys, in something that can keep us grateful. That can keep us grateful. Yeah. I was listening to who the heck was it? Joe DeSena. Do you guys know who Joe DeSena is? He's the founder and creator of Reebok Spartan. If you've ever seen like Spartan races, he's the founder and creator of it. He's a former Wall Street broker. He actually grew up in Queens, New York, in a mafia section. And as a teenager, he was the pool boy for all the local members of the Gambino crime family. He's got a really interesting background. Didn't go to high school, flunked out. He became a stockbroker, crushed it, made a ton of money, and then bought a farm in Vermont. And while in Vermont, had this epiphany of creating this Spartan. Either which way, he's phenomenal success story. He talks about when he flies, when he goes on airplanes, he's like, it sickens me to see people get physically and verbally upset when the Wi-Fi on an airplane doesn't work. He's like, I don't think they haven't taken a moment to be grateful and realize that, one, that they even have the money to have a ticket to be on this thing, and that it's gonna get them to, from Boston to California in like 5 hours, what would take somebody without the ability to go on the airplane days to get to. And meanwhile, they're pissed off, angry, bitching, moaning, and complaining because they can't, connect their iPad to the Wi-Fi. Right? Real lack of perspective in that scenario. So, and we all do it, by the way. It's total human nature. But again, how can we remain grounded as we're building momentum, or if we don't have it?
Be grateful.
Be grateful. All right. Have something you go to. Even average people can perform better than they are. Again, I would make sure you guys understand that. And I would have this as a foundational training of all your agents. Okay. even with lack of experience and lack of this, and if even being average, you can be better than you are right now. Okay, if we get momentum together, right? Which is why we want to make those phone calls, do those drop-bys. It's not because we want to make your life miserable or have you work until midnight on a Wednesday. You know, as leaders, we're simply trying to get you to get what behind you?
Momentum.
The momentum you need to start to enjoy what you do and see the fruits of your labor and get more efficient at what you do, so you can really start to see the juice that American Income Life and this opportunity will bring you when you do. Okay? The initial work is the toughest. For what?
For the least
Momentum.
amount of results.
Right? So number 3, that second line, the blank, the initial work is the toughest. The initial work is the toughest. And then it finishes off with what there? For the what?
The least results.
For the least results. The initial work is the toughest for the least results. Okay? And think about that. You can adapt that to anything. You know, again, when you first start your career here, your agents need to know that. You know, you're going to need to make more phone calls right now than you're going to in 12 weeks or 6 months. And oh, by the way, not only are you going to need to make more phone calls, but you're actually going to get what?
More no's.
The least results. Like that guy over there, Matt Tremblay, he's going to make less phone calls than you and get significantly what?
Better results.
More results. Because he's got some momentum and efficiency at what he's doing, right? Know it, understand it, protect every bit of what you build. Protect every bit of momentum you build, guys, because as hard as it is to build it, you can lose it like that. You can lose it like that. You know, that's why we really, you know, we kind of we don't push people to like take more than like 1 to 2 days off in their first year in a row. Like 3, 4, 5+ day vacations are not good, you know, not because it's going to affect the team or anything like that, but because you're 9 out of 10 times that person's going to come back with what?
No momentum.
Complete loss of momentum, you know, so protect every moment of it. 4, momentum is easier to steer. Momentum is easier to steer than to what?
Start.
Start. Once you have it, now you steer it. Once you have it, you steer it, right? Starting it, that's really the difficult part. 5, momentum is a powerful blank agent.
Motivating agent.
Change.
Good. Change agent. Motivation was a good guess. Change agent. Momentum. And I'll tell you guys, in my 13 years here, whenever we're losing somewhere, whether it's a given team that's losing, a certain essay that's losing, if it's a whole office that's losing, or if it's the whole agency across all 4 offices that's losing, the biggest thing Laura and I look to focus on is how can we what? How can we get momentum? Because that's it, man. If one of you are ever losing as a manager, it's not your talent, it's not your ability, right? It's not your commitment, it's not your loyalty, it's not your work effort. We know that. We know that it's 100% a lack of what right now?
Momentum.
Momentum. And it makes you look worse than you are, and then you get freaked out. Oh, man, they're going to think no, we know you don't have momentum. And so we're going to help do what we need to do, and we can do with you to gain that momentum. And in leadership, I'll tell you guys, and nobody likes to hear it, the number one way, well, there's 2 ways to gain absolute momentum as a manager, whether you're a supervisor, a general agent, an MGA, or even an RGA. Okay, there's 2 significant ways to create momentum and wins and victory in your deal. One is what?
Hires.
One is hires. One is hires. Okay? If I have a lack of momentum, I don't have the right players on my team, or I don't have any players on my team. And I need to get a solid bench. I need to bring the players on, man. I need momentum, right? So I need to get focused on getting that momentum through hires. And then the second thing is going to be what?
Leading from the front.
Personal production. Yep, leading from the front. You know, if I'm lacking my momentum, my team's losing, they're not on the leaderboard, people, you know, their paychecks are not very good. I can keep focusing on them and how to fix them and this, that, and the other thing. I'm telling you, man, as a leader, to get momentum and get back to winning, the two best things you can do for your team and for yourself is, one, make sure your ass is out there recruiting and getting, you know, talent acquired, and two, go personally produce your ass off. Okay? So because it's a powerful change agent when you do that. It's imperative we understand how best to help our clients, right? Meaning you being our clients. In your case, your clients are who? If you're a manager, your clients are your agent.
Your agents, our team.
And your actual clients, in-home clients, right? And so as a sales lesson real quick, please understand that, guys. And so if you understand the script, and if not, I'm going to help you real quick. Our script, which I know everybody's so sick of hearing how bad they need to know the script and stick to the script. The script is professionally developed by millionaires and highly educated people in sales to build what along the process to get a yes at the end? Momentum. The script is psychologically built to get a whole bunch of little yeses for like 30 to 45 minutes of little yeses, all building momentum towards one big final what?
Yes.
Yes. And so if you don't understand that, please start to understand that and implement it. And if you haven't taught your agents or they're not understanding that, again, let's develop it across the board, right? It's imperative we understand it, because that's how we can help others initiate change. When we are winning, again, we said it already, nothing hurts. Momentum is the leader's blank.
Best friend.
Okay, John did say that earlier, right? Momentum is a leader's best friend, right? So momentum is a leader's best friend, but momentum is the leader's responsibility. Okay? So again, tie this into last week in the law of victory, guys. If your team is losing or you're losing, don't look to somebody else to fix it. Getting that momentum, creating that change agent, getting that victory is whose responsibility?
Mine.
The leaders. And so again, when you guys as leaders and managers look to your agents, let's get them in a leadership mindset, not a sales agent mindset. The more people look at themselves, now are we salespeople? Yes. The more we look at ourselves as salespeople, though, right? Most people associate salespeople with a lot of negative connotations. And so a brand new agent who's never done sales before, if that's how they're viewing this, they're viewing themselves and what they do with a lot of negative items. So we want to help you guys. You want to help yourselves. And ultimately, we want to help all of our agents think like what?
Leaders.
Because our clients, right, we've said this before, to buy life insurance, they don't need to be sold. They need to be led. So let's all work on these items. Let's make sure our people are working as leaders out there. It's the leader's responsibility to create momentum. It takes a leader to create momentum. It doesn't just happen. It's not just going to happen. Okay, it takes momentum. You know, I'm fascinated with NASA. I'm fascinated. I've always been fascinated with astronauts. You know, probably a lot of you might have been as well. My son now is. Every night, we bought him this little thing. Every night when he goes to bed, we have to turn all the lights off, and it projects a bunch of stars and an astronaut and a spaceship on the ceiling. Uh, and when I was a kid, I always wanted to go to space camp. There was a movie about space camp in the late '80s, and I always wanted to go to space camp. One, we didn't have the money for it, and I didn't have the grades to qualify for any kind of scholarship to be sent to space camp. But at the end of the day, guys, when it comes to what we're looking to do and create this momentum and painting pictures, let's really look to think bigger, do bigger, paint these visions, pour it on, let people know they can do this stuff and create that momentum. It takes a leader to create momentum. It doesn't just happen. Okay. What I was going to say as well is with a rocket ship, do you guys know how many gallons of rocket fuel are on a rocket ship? Millions. It's hard to literally fathom. The majority of the spaceship, when it's on its platform in Florida, is literally millions of gallons of rocket fuel. Right? And then once it's launched into space, what happens? It separates, right? It sheds the fuel parts. And have you ever seen an actual spaceship at that point? Like the capsule? It's a very small part of things. It's super small. It's really impressive, right? So again, the majority of anything is going to require lots of effort, lots of energy, lots of pressure, lots of activity on the front end. And then once it gets going, guys, it's going to create such momentum. It's your best friend. We move to page 2. Oh, I love this. So what does this statement say? If you can't what? Not if you
Can't make the heat.
am I skipping pages here? No, I'm on the right page.
You're there.
Right?
Yeah, if you can't make the heat, get out of the kitchen.
If you can't
make the heat.
the heat. Leaders, we got that? Right? Right, it's not about taking it. As leaders now, leading other people, we need to be able to what?
Make it.
Let's make the heat. And if you can't make the heat, let's get out of the leadership kitchen, which doesn't make you a bad person, by the way. Just makes you, maybe you're better off in the personal production, right? But I love that statement. If you can't make the heat, get out of the kitchen. Momentum begins where?
With the leader.
Later.
Inside. Momentum begins inside each and every one of you, inside each and every one of us, and inside these two right here. The dude.
Good morning.
Say hi.
And then Catherine Day, what's the final statement? The last statement that's underlined. You can what?
You can be an overnight success after 20 years of hard work.
Embrace that, guys. Right? And the cool part is after 10 here, you're going to be a millionaire. If you guys haven't really understood that yet or let that, kind of galvanize in you, after 10 years of this stuff, of processes and pursuing victory and building momentum, it's not like a fluff statement. You will be a millionaire. So you guys should all give yourselves a quick clap because you're millionaires in the making. All right. Do you want to do the second one? Law of
Yeah,
priorities?
let's do it.
Awesome.
Cool.
So Laura's going to take
Trey.
over. She's going to go over the law of priorities with you guys. All right. Let me.
He's just yelling.
I know.
Patrick.
Cool. All right, let me share the screen. And law of priorities. Sorry if you can see my nose hairs right now, guys. I was gonna cut my nose hair, and then I read an article about, like, you know, you need them to capture the viruses and stuff in the airs and all, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna cut my nose
That's good.
hair. All right, we should be good to go.
Okay, let's do this.
Law number 17 is the law of priorities, which basically says leaders understand that activity is not necessarily accomplishment. This is a law that really challenges a lot of leaders. Let me explain. Leaders have a bias for action. I mean, we do. I mean, you show me a leader, and I am showing you a person, they don't sit long. I mean, when they get an idea, they're ready to move. They're ready to roll up their sleeves. They want to immediately initiate that idea. They want to get the momentum going, and they love action. They have a bias toward action. So leaders often get excited about activity. They say, man, I'm telling you right now, we just are burning rubber, and we're just working hard, and the candle at both ends, and wow, we've done all these things, and look we're accomplishing. Now, let me just stop here for a moment. Just relax with me for a moment. Take a pill, okay? Let me talk to you. My name's John. I'm your friend. What are you accomplishing? That's the question. Not what are you doing? Not how busy are you, but what are you accomplishing? My life was amazingly, wonderfully, radically changed. Clear back in 1971, I was working on a business degree, and I was sitting in a class, and the prof introduced us one day to the Pareto principle. The Pareto principle, you know what that is. It's sometimes referred to as the 80-20 principle. And it's a simple principle which basically says, if you'll take the 10 most important things that you need to do in your life and you'll prioritize them correctly. So number one is truly number one. Number two is truly number two. Number 9 is truly number 9. In other words, you'll put them in order of importance. If you'll prioritize your agenda items correctly, and then if you only do the top 2 items, 20%, number 1 and number 2, if you just do the top 2 items, those top 2 items will give you an 80% return of everything that you'll ever need in life. In other words, you don't have to do a lot. You just have to do the most important things to get the return. And the reverse is also true. If you do the bottom 8 things, you only get a 20% return. I can promise you, as I said in that class, I was taking notes so fast when that prof was giving that lecture. And I would say to myself as a kid, I would say, this is going to change my life. This is going to change my life. Because up at that time, I was high energy, worked hard, but I could tell that I didn't understand and do well prioritizing my life. I was basically kind of like what I would call a leader plumber. I would wait for there to be a problem and you know, something needed to be fixed. They'd call me and I'd come and fix it. Or I was like a fire person. I was waiting for a fire to break out. Then boy, I was over there just putting that fire out. And I was letting people's lives and the agenda of other lives control my life. And I wasn't in control, and I wasn't prioritizing, and I wasn't doing the most important things that would give the highest return. And so I began back in the early 70s to become a student of this law, of which I have taught the Pareto principle thousands and thousands of times. I've expressed it, I've coached on it, and let me just tell you this, it still is life-changing today. And it's not only true about your things to do, your to-do list, it's true also about the people that you invest in. If you took the 10 top people among your clients in your organization, and you took those top 10, and then you put them in order of priority as far as their return to that organization. And the first person was the one that was giving you the highest return. The second was giving you the second highest. Number 10 was of the 10 was giving you the lowest. And if you just turned around and then you put 80% of your time in those top 2 people, 80% of what you need, you'll get back. And yet what do we do? What do we do often? Because it's the bottom 20% that want us, need us. They help. Can you come over here? I don't get it. If we're not careful, we'll begin to spend 80% of our time with the bottom 20%. I see it happen all of the time. Now, by the way, the bottom 20%, should they be taken care of? Of course. Should they be helped? Sure. Should they be equipped? Absolutely. But here's the way it works. You should be working with the top ones, and it ought to be filtered its way all the way down. The question is not, is the person at the bottom being equipped? The question is, who's equipping the person at the bottom? Who's spending time with them? As a leader, you have to be very careful in how you prioritize your people, how you prioritize the things you need to get accomplished, and make sure that you are intentional, constantly doing the things that are important. The question is not, will your calendar be full? If you're a leader, of course your calendar is going to be full. You're going to be so busy. The question is not will your calendar be full. The question is who will fill your calendar. If you fill it and you prioritize it correctly, you will get a great return. Trust me. I've been doing it for 40 years.
Nice. That is a super, super powerful one. And, that's something I really want to, it's really important to be able to stress that, because that's something I see a lot of leaders as they start growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think I mentioned this in the agency meeting yesterday. It is so important to be able to say the big N word in life. And it's something that most people are not comfortable with. And the big N word is no. If you want to be as effective as possible as a leader, one of the greatest words that you can learn to say is no. You should not be saying yes to everybody all of the time, no matter what. That is the quickest way to go insane. It is the quickest way to not get much accomplished. It's not a mean thing. It's a very smart, solid thing to be able to do in business. And so that's something I encourage each one of you, because anytime that you say yes to someone or something, it means that you're saying no to what?
Yourself.
Something else.
Everything else.
Who said everything else? Thank you, Bri. Very good. So I want you to understand that when I'm spending time with you right now, I'm spending time because I know full force, hands down, that if time is spent very diligently and very carefully with the right leaders, that it will bring in an 80% return that we're looking for. I know that. Is my time right now best spent with the agent that can barely hit 500 a week and is all over the place and not really sure what they're doing, but they're just like, please help me, I need help? No, absolutely. We'll get them some help. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be me. It will be somebody filtered down, because my time is best spent for your benefit. And that's what you have to understand as a leader. Sometimes we think, oh, that's a mean thing to do as a leader. Isn't your job as a leader to help out everybody else? Do you think you're too good to say no to certain people? That's not what it comes down to. The kindest thing for me to be able to do as a leader is to say no to certain people. Because if it's for the good of the organization and what is going to put everybody in a position to win, I need to make sure that my priorities are set correctly. Who do you think I spend the most amount of my time with communicating?
Hopefully, Ryan.
Ryan, good?
The RGAs.
Yeah, the RGAs, for sure. Why wouldn't I? They bring in the greatest amount of return. Of course. I spend a good amount of time with my staff as well, too. Why? Because they're the front end people. They're the ones that everybody are seeing on a day-to-day basis. Then my leaders after that, okay? Brand new agents, I'm spending time with them. Don't get me wrong. I'm certainly spending time with them. Not as much as I am with certain other people, though. Okay. So that's very important. It's important to understand that when you say yes to something, it doesn't mean that you're saying no to something else or somebody else. It means that you're saying no to everything else. Okay. So that's quite powerful. So, a couple of things I loved about this. Activity is not necessarily accomplishment. And that's important to understand in our business, especially long term. I always took a look at that in the beginning part of my career, and especially when I see leaders. I see people like Matt Tremblay right now, the hours, the time, and the dedication that he's putting in. I saw Rick doing that in the beginning, Cam Stanley, Ashley O'Donnell. Right now, we see Mike Russo, we see Brian Zuzek, I see Patrick Gagnon here. And, an average person that's not looking at this long term takes a look at it and says, oh, wow, that's a lot of hours in the beginning. Like, why am I doing this all in the beginning? Why am I doing all these hours in the beginning? Because if you're just looking at what you're doing for the sake of what you're doing, let's face it, most people out there, it's not really a big deal if they are accomplishing much of anything. Let's face it, if you're working for another corporation, if I'm working for Sears, if I'm working for Staples, if I'm working for anywhere, I'm just kind of there to do a job. And if the job gets done, okay, there's a really small chance that I'm still not going to be fired. I mean, thanks to a lot of lawyers out there, I'm not going to be fired. I have to really do something like really, really bad to put myself in a position to be fired. Outside of that, I could probably fight that way. So most people out there, I would say, are used to getting by their whole life without accomplishing much of anything. How many of you graduated from college? Okay, even high school. You take a look at that. Were you able to walk in a line with somebody that had a completely different GPA than you, but nothing really like separated the two of you? I mean, you both got the same degree. Meaning when I graduated from Rutgers University, I got the same exact degree as the kid next to me that had like a 1.2 GPA or whatever the bare minimum was that you could get to graduate. And there was nothing that said we both got the same degree. Unless I'm going on to become like a lawyer or a doctor, where to get into grad school, you have to have a certain GPA. But outside of that, you're able to kind of float around your entire life next to certain people, and nothing really has separated you. So I want you to understand that most people don't understand the value of accomplishment today. And that was one of the things I wanted to teach myself very early on. I wanted to teach myself how to get results, no matter how long it took me to get them. I know not everybody understands my passion for going out on a Sunday. And let me be very clear. I'm also very passionate that if you have in your results, that you take the luxury of taking a day off. Absolutely. I think that brings so much value to you that when you train yourself to get in results, you reward yourself. Hands down. I'm a huge believer of like on holidays, stuff like that. I don't want my agents working on Easter because they have to. That to me is not cool. I want my agents spending that time with their families, or the people in their life that they love. Absolutely. But one of the things that was very important to me, because I wanted that financial freedom long term, I wanted the ability to not have money control me for the rest of my life. And so that meant in the beginning, I really wanted to train myself on how to get in results no matter how long it took. It didn't matter to me if it was 4 days. It didn't matter to me if it was 7 days. I had a deadline, and I wanted to train myself to get in those results, because I knew that if I could do that early on and train myself to get in results no matter what, it would get progressively simpler and simpler for me to get in those results in a shorter period of time. People don't understand what they are accomplishing long term by doing that in the beginning. They just look at it like, oh boy, I don't know if I want to do this like week in and week out. It comes down to long term. What are you looking to accomplish by training yourself to do that? So that's one thing I'd really take a look at. Activity is not necessarily accomplishment. You could be doing something over and over again, but is it actually accomplishing something long term for you? Okay. So again, it's not what you're doing, but what you're accomplishing. And then the top 2 items, you have an 80% return. Priorities, so important here with priorities. When we take a look at that, one of the biggest things to be able to train. So how many new leaders do we have on board here, like that just signed their leadership contract? Okay, so we have a couple of you. So Luke, Luke, did you sign yours yet? Okay, so you can get yours signed. But Luke, we got Sophie, we got Walter. Okay, cool. Then we got Alex on here.
Stephen as well.
Leadership, especially. Who said me as well?
There's Stephen Forey as well, just signed his contract.
Oh, Steve. Okay, cool. Is Stephen
Yes, I
on
did.
this?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, okay. No worries. Okay, good. So we got a couple of you on here that did. And here's one of the big things I can tell you guys to take a look at. So what's one of the new awesome responsibilities that you have the privilege of starting to partake in now?
Field training.
Recruiting. Recruiting and field training. Absolutely. And so here's one of the things I've noticed, that managers and leaders that prioritize their time and do what is needed to get done when it's needed to get done, hands down, have more free time and get much better results than anybody else. Okay? It's managers, and you guys can mute your phones now, whoever's off the mute. The 508-864-8233.
Sorry, that was me.
It's okay, no worries. But managers and leaders that I see that really take this to heart are agents and leaders that hands down accomplish more. And I'll tell you this, it's agents and leaders that I see that do what they want when they want that end up floundering big time. Big time. See, here's the thing. On a Monday morning and a Tuesday morning between 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., what if I just did this one thing and I did it consistently and I didn't let anything interrupt me? Would I get an 80% return in my business? What would that be? Recruiting, hands down. Okay. But I'll tell you what, leaders that do not understand the priority principle spend that time answering agent phone calls, sending emails back to Courtney or Elizabeth. They spend that time doing oral swabs. They let other things distract them during that time. So what ends up happening? Well, a couple months down the line, they have little to no team. And they're wondering why. And they feel like they're running through a rat race. You only feel like you're running through a rat race, I'm telling you this, when you don't understand the Preber principle and you don't understand the law of priorities. It is about doing the right thing at the right time and nothing else during that time. And if you do that consistently and you train your mind to do that consistently, you're going to be getting an 80% return. The same thing. I could go into a booking room and just observe a booking room, and I can tell you the leader that's going to grow and the leader that's going to be stuck with 2 agents their whole life. I can tell you the leader that's going to struggle with team production. It's the leader that's spending time going outside, taking smoke breaks, doing phone calls to other people. It's the leader that has their Facebook and their social media up. It's the leader that's constantly going like to get cups of coffee and hanging out. It's the leader that's like answering emails. It's the leader that's pulling up client information. They're going to struggle because it takes a lot of discipline. I'll tell you this. And you'll see this. It takes a lot of discipline to be able to stay focused on just one thing, one or two things max. It's a lot of discipline to stay focused when you're booking appointments. But here's what I want to accomplish as a leader by staying focused in the booking room. Number one, I want to get a great return on my production. I don't want to have to stress about production. Do you guys like stressing about production? That's fun, right? That's like a whole shitload of fun, right? That's not productive to me. So I don't want to stress about that. I want to just know that we did the work that we needed to do. So it's going to kind of happen. Okay. I don't want to stress about that. Because I want to be able to spend that time coaching my people. If you're spending the next morning trying to make up for what you should have gotten the night before or the past couple days in the field, you're losing money and you're losing time doing that. But the second thing I want to do is I also want to set the right culture for the people on my team so that one day when they get into my position, that they're as effective as possible. So I know that when I do my job as a leader and I stay focused on the top 20%, I know that I'm influencing others. Okay. And so that is accomplishing much more long-term than just the here and now today. Okay. So if we go to law 17, the law of priorities, this is the law that, this law is the lever that instead of focusing on getting what done?
Something.
More done. Okay. So this law is the lever that instead of focusing on getting more done, a great leader gets the right things done. Okay. Instead of getting more done, a leader focuses on getting the right things done. Okay. Today, I will get the right things done, the things that are going to bring me in an 80% return on my business. Okay. So the 3 R's for priorities. Number 1, what is required? Okay. It's a dangerous, dangerous place to live when you only do what you want instead of what is required. You all want to get to a point that you just want to do what you want whenever you want. No shaming your game. That's the reason why I joined American Income. Dude, I wanted to be able to have money after 10 years and say, look, if I'm not happy anymore, if I'm just tired of this and I want to pass the reins on to somebody else, I want to have enough money to just say, yo, peace out, baby. I'm going to go sail around the world. Do you know what's sick? What's sick is if I left this company today, these mofos would have to pay me $46 grand a month. That shit's sick. They probably don't want me to retire because it would cost them a lot of money. It would. But it's nice, I'll tell you. It's just, I'm forever grateful that I'm in a company that allows me the opportunity to be able to do that. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people out there that work hard. I had a real hardworking father. Like, always was working overtime. He just did. My dad loved to work. He just really loved to work. He was a sheet metal mechanic. But at the end of it, what he had to show after 52 years, they gave him an iPad. I think I'm giving a trip to fucking Aruba for like people who did really well in like a month in March. Like it's crazy sometimes. It really is crazy. So I encourage you to have just an underlying sense of this shit ain't real out there. It's just not. And if we have the privilege and the blessing to be able to have that here, I'm telling you, we got to get the law of priorities down to really maximize it. But you want to be in a position where in 10 years, you call the shots. Here's what you got to understand humbly. I remember being where you are, growing my business, new in the business, okay? Money controls you right now. It does. So it is very important that you gain as much capital as possible, because the more capital you have, you start to think a little bit different. You just do. Okay. And the more capital you have, the more that you're able to invest in your business. Okay. Why do the Patriots keep winning Super Bowls? Well, because they got more money than anybody else. They can do whatever they want with it. Hello, the Yankees, the Red Sox. You know what I mean? Like, you got to put yourself in a position for that. But that comes back to it's not the money itself. It's what it's going to allow you to be able to do long term, especially helping out others. Okay. But again, we got to focus on what is required of us. That's where we got to stay humble. Humility in the beginning part of your business is very important. And I actually think it's really good to stay humble long term. When you're humble, you always have this underlying thing that says you can do better. You can do better. There's no arrival zone. Okay. There's no like, I've arrived. I can sit back, put my feet on the table. No, you don't want that in life. You don't want that. When do they see people's health deteriorating? Statistically, when they retire. Because most people, when they retire, they just take it like that. Let me retire and do nothing. I can tell you that's what I saw in my father. My dad died 6 months after he retired because he went from being super productive. Don't get me wrong, he was a little bit sick, but I can assure you he would have lived even longer if he kept working because he was happy. Okay. So we want to stay out of this like arrival area because progress is like Warren Buffett. How old is Warren Buffett now? Does anybody know?
He's over 80, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's like mid 80s. Do you know how many calories a day he eats?
Not much.
He eats 3,900 calories a day. He's got the worst diet on the planet. Read his autobiography. And then there's a man that had followed him around and spent each day with him. 3,900. He has the worst diet on the planet. He eats McDonald's a couple times a day. He's got a couple milkshakes, like the worst diet on the planet. But this mofo is sharp as a cue. Health, like they don't understand it. I understand it though. And you understand it because he stays sharp. He stays productive. He stays in this constant mindset of growth, humility, and always getting better. Okay? So it's the lifeblood that keeps you alive. So constant improvement. But what is required? What must I do that nobody can or should do for me? That's really important that you guys answer that, okay? What is required of you? What must you do that nobody can or should do in place of you? Number 2, in order to know your priorities, what is going to give you the greatest return? You got to do the things that it's going to give you the greatest return, okay? So what are you doing that can be done at least 80% as well as somebody else? What do you do the best that you're going to get the greatest return on? Okay? Because remember, just because you can does not mean you should. I can watch my child right now. This is a perfect example in here, actually. I can watch my child right now, my like little nugget running around here. Does it mean I should right now? No. You want to be successful, you got to learn to say no to certain things. He's like crying for me out there. Ma, 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 ma. No, babe. Peace out. Love you. I'll see you later. He's with his babysitter out there. Okay. So I'm giving a little example right there, but just because you can does not mean you should. Okay. What can I do that can be double or triple purposed? Okay. So that's a leverage question for you guys. What can you do that can be double or triple purposed? Number 3, this is really important. What brings the greatest reward? What do you do that really makes you the happiest?
That's our big why, right?
Yeah. I remember, you know, I loved writing business in the field. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. Like oh my God, I loved it. You know, when you're like, that if everything makes sense, which it looks like it does, they're like, yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. Or what's even better is they were a tough client on the phone. They were a little bit tougher as well too. And then they had some objections. And then you were like a 9 and a 10 at your objections. You just didn't give up on them. And you overcame that objection. And then they're like, okay, yeah. And you're like, I can conquer the world. I love that thrill. I love the thrill. But I'll tell you what made me so happy was watching that agent and that agent kind of take over the presentation. They were nervous, but they got through the presentation and they did it, and then they closed. And it's just, it's so awesome to be able to watch people that may not have always believed in themselves or thought that they could ever do something as maybe powerful as they're doing right now. And it's really exciting watching people that came into your business and now they're earning $350,000 a year, $400,000 a year, and they're just really growing their leadership. It's really special. So you got to ask yourself what brings you in the greatest reward. Okay. And then number 4, as the leader, it is a terrific advantage. As the leader, it is a terrific advantage to be in place to choose what you do. As the leader, it is a terrific advantage to be in a place to choose what you do. There are many things that catch my eye, but only a few things that catch my heart. Okay? And I think we're finished. Did Ryan give you guys some homework? I think we'll go homework free this week. You're like kids in the class that are like, what? No homework. Good stuff. The only thing I'm going to ask you is the same thing I would always ask you as a leader. And I'm just asking you to apply this. Okay? So that's your homework. Your homework is to apply this weekend. Okay? It's 11:14, so I'm going to let you guys go. And we will see you guys next Friday. And let the battle of the sexes begin, baby.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you very much, Laura.
Oh, thanks, guys.